Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today's video is going to be a fun one. In today's video, I'm taking you back to the Championship Series Cup, where I just hit my season high elo of 3263 with this anti-meta team. Now, the team features Shadow Froslass on the lead, Miltank as the safe switch, and Dubwool as the closer. Now this Froslass's moveset is anything but ordinary. We are running a mono ice Froslass, specifically because there's not a lot of ice resistances in this meta. Now this is a team for fun, not for climbing, but I had so much fun with it that I'm making a video on it anyway. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. And in game 1, we're off to a very strong start, leading Shadow Froslass into Kingdra. Now one of the reasons why I like the idea behind a mono ice moveset in this meta is that Shadow Avalanche is incredibly threatening. So a lot of people will shield up, and if you're able to successfully bait with Triple Axle, then suddenly you're boosted and you can threaten boosted avalanches, which is something that Froslass never ever gets to throw. I fire off Triple Axle number 2, and I didn't see a Dragon Breath sneak, so that may have been a CMP tie, and it was. The CMP tie between Kingdra and Shadow Froslass is extremely IV dependent. Kingdra is going to go for a double bait on a Swift, but unfortunately for them, they do not have the HP to make an outrage. This is only going to be another Swift. So I get the farm down, I exit double boosted with an Avalanche loaded, in comes Spiritomb, and it's time. The reveal. We are mono ice. Spiritomb almost gets one shot, and they have their own Froslass in the back. But unfortunately for me, this game is far from over, as Froslass is basically the perfect Pokemon that my opponent needs to try and reverse sweep me. I send in Dubwool, fire off the Wild Charge, in comes Miltank, and I just need to start stacking up rollout damage. They're going to fire off Avalanche. Avalanche just hits so incredibly hard neutrally. The good news is, Miltank is on this team because of its immense bulk. Miltank able to absorb that damage. I can't get the Body Slam, but I should be able to double kick down with Dubwool and exit with the Body Slam loaded. Avalanche lands, Dubwool survives. All that's left is the low HP Spiritomb in the back. So we 1v2'd with the Froslass, but their Froslass almost reverse swept me back. But luckily, we're still able to get the win. Great lead in the next match, Shadow Froslass into Spiritomb. Now this matchup is always a little bit tricky. Froslass is not going to KO with any one move, so anticipating a no shield, I end up firing off the Avalanche. But my opponent does end up shielding, so I was probably better off going for the Triple Axle. I just expected them to play zeros, but it looks like they did not want to do so. Now that I'm debuffed, I'm going to boost my attack back to normal with Triple Axle. Triple Axle into the Spiritomb is going to be no shielded. Spiritomb, can they make the Rock Tomb? They cannot. Now I exit with energy, and that's really nice as in comes Kingdra. My opponent now knows that I have Avalanche, so they're forced to put up a shield, and I really do not want to give them any kind of farm, so I pivot into Miltank. In the back, my opponent has Vigoroth, and this is just game over. Unfortunately for my opponent, Vigoroth, it really does not do much. The counter nerf has hurt it tremendously, even in a matchup with Brick Break against the Pokemon like Miltank. Look how much damage Miltank is getting onto this Mon. Miltank is able to get the Vigoroth deep into the red HP. Now I can bring in Froslass to absorb their energy. Waiting the switch timer here was a massive blunder on my part, because it actually allows my opponent to save the Vigoroth for later and send in Kingdra. I no shield, Outrage connects, and that damage is devastating. I knew they were going to make a Swift plus an Outrage, so I called a bait, and unfortunately my bait call was not correct. But Wild Charge will get them low. I should just be able to fast move everything down now. We farm down, in comes Vigoroth. Vigoroth gets farmed as well, and we're able to get the win. Hopping into the next match, Shadow Froslass into Grimmsnarl. This is a nightmare lead. Grimmsnarl absolutely destroys Froslass. I save switch into Dubwool, and to my surprise, my opponent is not pivoting out. This is really good news for me. I would love to get some damage on Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl hits very hard, but the downside of Grimmsnarl is it is exceedingly frail. So Grimmsnarl can't really take a hit. My opponent will put up the shield. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make the Wild Charge. I would have got farmed down first, so I'm forced to just go for the Body Slam, but even the Body Slam did way more damage than I was expecting. Now I just get to send in Miltank. Miltank just going to be going for a full farm down there. I do get a 4th rollout to sneak because my opponent waited a turn to see what got brought in. They force on the play rough. I basically sacked everything, trusting in the fact that Froslass will be able to sweep. My opponent waits down the timer. They bring in a Krokorok. Look at the spice. But bad news for Krokorok. Ice Beam into Powder Snow, snipe them down. In the back is Lopunny, and we're just going to get the win straight Avalanche. If they end up no shielding, I can boost myself up with Triple Axle. They no shield, and that's just way too much damage. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Great lead in the next match, leading into Dragonair, but disaster strikes as my opponent safe switches into the Pokemon that beats my entire team. This is Spiritomb, and unfortunately, anytime you're running anti-meta, you're never going to be able to craft a team that covers everything. This team's weakness is named Spiritomb. Spiritomb has winning matchups into every single member of this team. It thrashes Dubwool, it completely destroys Froslass. Miltank is my best matchup, but as we see here, Miltank still got destroyed as well. I send in the Dubwool, firing off the Wild Charge. They now know that I'm triple weak. I need them to let it go, but they're not going to. They recognize they can get so much value out of this Spiritomb that they're going to end up double shielding it, firing off the Rock Tomb. In my eyes, they should just catch the Wild Charge onto the Dragonair, so I'm a bit surprised when they actually don't preserve the Spiritomb. Preserving the Spiritomb would have ended the game on the spot. Maybe there's a chance. I do have a little bit of energy on the Froslass. In comes Froslass as they send in Dragonair. I didn't want to CMP tie, so I don't end up firing off that energy, as I think Dragonair does win CMP. In the back is Licky Licky, and here I do make a misplay. I should have gone for the triple axle into the Avalanche. Now, 2 Avalanches will KO, of course, but I need the boosted Powder Snows to try and farm down the Dragonair later. So, unfortunately, I realized too late, and I'm just going to get farmed down. I think even if I boosted up the Powder Snows, I still wouldn't have won the game. The Spiritomb was just an absolute wrecking ball into this team, and that's part of why this is more of a team for fun than for climbing, because Spiritomb is a nightmare, and unfortunately, we get back-to-back Spiritombs. Man, when building this team, I knew Spiritomb would be an issue. I was hoping to not see many of them, but unfortunately, Spiritomb is here. I send in the Miltank. Miltank gonna be hit with the Rock Tomb. I undertap the Ice Beam here just because I was confident my opponent would go for a 1 Sucker Punch and a catch, and landing some damage onto the Spiritomb is actually very helpful. There is the catch. My opponent right on cue. They're catching the Ice Beam onto Licky Licky. Switch timer not yet available. I'm able to save that Miltank on very low HP and pivot into the Dubwool. Now, Dubwool, unfortunately, cannot knock out yet with either charge stack. Licky Licky will be spamming out Body Slam after Body Slam, and I'm just going to try and get them into a range where I can take the KO. Now, this Spiritomb, I did get quite a bit of damage on it, which is helpful, but it's still going to be a very tough game. And unfortunately, I end up miscounting. I didn't think Licky Licky was at the move, but Licky Licky is able to land another Body Slam, and now I basically have no HP on the Dubwool. Wild Charge lands, in comes Drapeon. I send in the Froslass, but they pivot out, and that misplay gives me an opportunity to win this game. Because Spiritomb, even with the debuff, they're going to get fully farmed down by the Froslass, and I exit with a ton of energy. Now, I'm going for broke. I'm going to be full sending Avalanche. I know I'm debuffed, but the Avalanche lands. My opponent calls that it's the triple axle, but the Avalanche lands, and now I can boost my attack back to normal. Drapeon gets the farm down, but look at the Powder Snow damage. I should survive 1 Poison Sting on the Miltank, and despite having a Mon that beats our entire team, we claw our way back and get redemption. Tough lead in the next match, Shadow Froslass into Shadow Malamar. Shadow Malamar is a Pokemon that I really like in previous Open Great League metas, but in this meta where there's so many bugs, I think Malamar is so difficult to use. I'm getting shredded by the Psywaves, but there's so many bug-type fast moves that Malamar really struggles to find any kind of consistent play. I'm going to have to go down both shields, but Shadow Froslass can win the 2s by just triple axling and fully farming down. My opponent knows it, and they make a very nice catch and sneak, getting the free rollout as they catch triple axle onto their Licky Licky. But I'm going to make a nice play of my own, as I'm able to throw 2 Powder Snows, defer the second rollout onto the Dubwool as I switch it in. Dubwool more than happy to be hit with Body Slam after Body Slam, but my opponent ends up over-farming to a CMP tie that they do not win. Body Slam lands, down goes Licky Licky, and I still exit very healthy. In comes Kingdra, and if there's one Pokemon that's very scary when you're at a shield deficit, it is Kingdra. But I'm able to get a shield, and grabbing a shield with Body Slam means that I can now go for the Wild Charge. It's really tempting to switch out, but I think my best play is to stay in because Kingdra just simply can't farm me down. Kingdra's going to be forced to Swift to get rid of the Dubwool, and one of the reasons why Miltank is on the team is it can neutrally survive an Outrage. So I send in Miltank, looking to farm, watching for the switch. In comes Shadow Malamar, and I'm going to throw 1 rollout and the Body Slam to ensure that they do not make a superpower. Malamar will get KO'd. Back in comes Kingdra. I pivot into the Froslass. The threat of Powder Snows is going to force them to fire off yet another Swift. But the game all comes down to this. They're only getting 1 singular charge attack. It's going to be the Outrage, and I'm a Miltank. We tank it, get the Body Slam, and that's going to be a win. Bit of a scary endgame there, as oh my goodness, Kingdra up a shield is terrifying, but we fight back and we get the win. Great lead in the next match. Shadow Froslass into Furret. Most Furrets in this meta are going to be on Quick Attack, and if they're on Quick Attack, then they're completely walled off by Froslass. Licky's safe switch is going to be answered with Double, and we are off to an incredible start. Double farming up a ton of energy, firing off the Body Slam. The question will be, is the Licky in double Body Slam range? Looks like the answer is no, so I will have to take extra damage on the Double, but I should be able to double kick it into Wild Charge range. I don't think the Body Slam would have knocked out here, but Wild Charge definitely will. Wild Charge will take the KO, and I'm looking to get aggressive. I pivot into the Froslass just for the final mon to be a Grimmsnarl, and I have just completely thrown this game. I was expecting at worst it was going to be a rollout user, and if it was a rollout user, then Froslass up energy is just simply going to win. But it was like the one thing I could not see in the back. It makes sense to have a Grimmsnarl back there. They need a very strong check to Spiritomb, because most teams, unlike mine, do not choose to just get 1v3'd by a Spiritomb. So unfortunately, just a very poor team read by me, and that's going to cost me this game. As the Furret, now that it's no longer walled, the Froslass is out of the way, the Furret is just so good into my backline. I'm farming up a ton of energy with the Miltank, but my opponent, they have the regional championship shirt for a reason. They're going to be able to manage their energy well enough that they're going to be able to take home this win. I'm firing off Body Slam after Body Slam with the Miltank. They're still holding on to that final Protect Shield because they know that with it, they're going to win this game. Brick Break lands, Miltank is going to make the Body Slam. I need to make a move on Double, but I just don't have the energy that I need. Body Slam will get the shield. Here's the switch into Double. Unfortunately, we cannot get there. Such a blunder on my part. I wanted to try and get aggressive. I didn't want to give farm to the Furret, but considering that I wall Furret with the Froslass, I should have just stayed in and played for alignment. We get a pretty rough lead in the next match, Shadow Froslass into Shadow Drapeon. I'm going to try and go for a catch onto Miltank. My opponent actually does end up throwing energy on the Miltank. This is amazing. I would much rather take the energy here than on the Froslass. They're going to farm up energy, send out Furret, and this is very okay. Furret obviously going to be walled off by the Shadow Froslass. I fire off the Ice Beam because I'm just looking to try and get some damage. My opponent can go for the Brick Break. I am not going to be surviving a Brick Break here. They go for the Brick Break. Miltank gets KO'd. Now I can bring back in the Froslass. The Froslass is going to be walling them off. The only thing they can really do here is fire off Brick Breaks. Brick Break, of course, is going to be double resisted. I farm up as much energy as I possibly can, and I will be able to take the KO with Triple Axle. So now I am boosted. My opponent sends in Licky. I threw an alignment, anticipating the Drapeon was the one that was getting brought back in here. I farm up energy with the Froslass, switch into Double, but at this point, my opponent just has too much firepower remaining. I cannot win this game. I shield up the Double, my opponent full sends a Hyper Beam, and just like that, I'm right back in it. This game was completely over if my opponent went straight Body Slam. They just had too much damage between the Licky and the Drapeon, but by throwing a Hyper Beam for no reason, they just got only 1 damage on my Double in exchange for 80 energy from that Licky. And with that misplay, I'm back in the game because Crunch plus Aqua Tail does not KO my Double. I'm now going to get a Wild Charge to force the final shield. I can bring back in the Froslass, KO with the Triple Axle, and then farm down Licky. I should have been dead to rights in this game, but somehow, against all odds, we farm down and escape with the win. Hopping into the next match, we've got a tough opponent rise to occasion, and unfortunately, the Drapeon lead is back. This lead is really bad for this team. I end up banking energy and sending in the Miltank. Rise farms up a massive amount of energy, but I'm already in such a negative spot because Shadow Drapeon is so good into my team. He's going to be sending out Kingdra. I just want damage on the Kingdra, so I am going to be firing off the Ice Beam. Ice Beam is going to land, doing a little bit of chip damage there, and I just continue to farm up to force him to fire off a Swift. A Drapeon with energy is pretty much unrecoverable for my team, but if there's going to be any chance, it's going to be from going for a 1-shield farm down with Shadow Froslass. This way I can exit with back-to-back charge stacks and threaten shields away from that Drapeon. Switch timer's up, back in comes the Drapeon, and just like that, I go from 2 shields to 0 in a split second. This is definitely not ideal. I'm going to be able to get those shields back, but I'm not really going to get any damage onto the Drapeon. I can double Triple Axle, but Drapeon's almost at another crunch, and I'm going to be forced to pivot out of this matchup and send in Double. Double can't quite make it to the Body Slam as Drapeon is going to be firing off Crunch. Crunch is going to hit for some pretty significant damage, and he pivots out, saving the Drapeon once again and bringing in Licky. Licky, Body Slam not going to do a whole lot of damage. Licky farms up and goes for the Body Slam. Body Slam should not knock out Double here. Body Slam lands, Double hangs on and makes the Wild Charge. And suddenly, there's a chance. If I can Powder Snow down before he makes the Earthquake, I can actually win this game. I I go for the farm down. He does not have the earthquake yet. This should just be the body slam, but no, he's on Shadow Ball. The Shadow Ball tech. It's cheaper than earthquake. It KOs. We almost found a way, but unfortunately, we do lose that game. We get a great lead in the final match, Shadow Froslass into Dragalge, and they're completely core broken as they're sending in Spitops. I fire off the Avalanche at the Spitops. Spitops puts up the shield, and I really have to start learning to triple axle these Spitops on the first move, because they are always shielding no matter what. And now I'm debuffed. This time, I'm going to go for the triple axle, because last time it was able to set up a farm down for me, but man, this is definitely not ideal. I really should have thrown those moves in the reverse order. And unfortunately, my opponent, they do barely hang on, so it looks like this opponent has a better Spitops than the last, but I will exit this matchup debuffed. My opponent sends in Licky Licky, and I'm throwing debuffed energy. I click triple axle at that. Oh my goodness, I am all over the place in this final game. I'm making some pretty poor plays. I pivot into the Miltank, and my opponent actually ends up making a pretty big error as they pivot in Dragalge. Dragalge's not going to do well into the Miltank. Body slam bait gets the shield. Now I make it to the Ice Beam, and this is going to be devastating damage onto Dragalge. Ice Beam lands, Dragalge gets rocked, and unfortunately somehow I just completely lag and don't sneak through a rollout. I was tapping my screen. The game just froze and didn't give a rollout. Luckily, I'm so far ahead because they ended up pivoting a Dragalge into a Miltank up energy that it's not going to matter. But that was an unusual one. I send in the double, go for the catch on the Froslass, and the opponent is going to resign the match. As I mentioned at the start, this is a team that I would consider a team for fun, not for climbing. Overall, I did go positive with the team. I believe it was 10-5 overall. I went 5-0 to 32-63, and then a 2-3-3-2 set after that. Part of the reason why I wouldn't recommend the team for climbing is, as you saw, if you encounter Spiritomb, you're probably just going to lose. Additionally, Shadow Drapeon proved to be a Pokemon that honestly wasn't really on my radar as a Pokemon that I was triple weak to, but in those games, Shadow Drapeon ended up being an absolute nightmare as well. One thing that I did think actually felt pretty real out of this team was actually the triple ice move Froslass. It was definitely an experimental moveset, but I feel like there were a couple games where it really showed its worth. I don't think there was a single moment when I ended up missing Shadow Ball, just because Avalanche still does massive damage neutrally, and if you're ever able to get a triple axle shielded, then having the ability to hit for boosted avalanches, a boosted avalanche hurts quite literally every Pokemon you could encounter in this meta. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching today's video, please do support the channel by leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not. And an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.